The sun was setting over Velaris Prime, casting long shadows across the tall glass towers of the city. The air was filled with the quiet hum of flying vehicles and the chatter of many different alien languages. This was one of the busiest trading hubs in the Outer Rim, where traders and merchants from many planets came to buy and sell rare goods. Among the most famous places here was a luxury boutique called Elysium Thread. It was known across the stars for selling the finest clothes, jewelry, and gifts items only the richest and most important beings could afford. At the entrance of Elysium Thread, the glass doors gleamed under the lights. The boutique was surrounded by bright signs written in many languages, but the name was always clear: Elysium Thread. Inside, people moved slowly, as if the air itself was made of silk. The staff wore uniforms of sparkling fabric that changed color with the light. Only the most elegant and wealthy were allowed inside. On this evening, a man stood outside the doors. He was not dressed like the usual visitors. His clothes were plain, a simple gray shirt and trousers that looked worn from many travels. His face was calm, but his eyes watched everything carefully. His name was Rin. Rin reached out to touch the glass door, but before he could enter, two attendants appeared on either side. One was tall and thin, with blue skin and eyes that glowed softly. The other was smaller, with green scales covering her arms and a sharp smile that did not reach her eyes. Their names were Karn and Mela, and they were the gatekeepers of Elysium Thread. Karn looked Rin up and down and laughed softly. "You think you can enter here dressed like that? This is Elysium Thread, not some cheap market," he said, his voice dripping with pride. Mela crossed her arms and added, "We only allow guests who can prove they belong. If you want to shop here, you need to look the part." Rin smiled gently. "I have an appointment." Karn's laughter grew louder. "An appointment? Who do you think you are?" "Someone who wants to see the owner," Rin said quietly. Mela's smile became a sneer. "The owner? You? We would know if the owner came here in such plain clothes." Rin did not answer. Instead, he reached into his pocket and pulled out a small, flat device. He pressed a button, and a soft blue light showed his name and a corporate symbol, Arconis Group. But Karn and Mela barely glanced at it. "This is a fake," Karn said quickly. "We don't trust humans who say they own this place. You should try the discount market on Earth if you want cheap clothes." Rin's calm eyes hardened for a moment. He stepped forward, but before he could say anything, a soft beep came from his device. His communication link alerted him to another problem elsewhere. He stopped himself and smiled again. "Thank you for your help," he said quietly. Then, without another word, Rin turned and walked away from the doors. Behind him, Karn and Mela exchanged smug looks. They thought they had won. But Rin's mind was racing. He knew what they had done, denying entry to the owner of the boutique, and treating him like a common stranger. To most people, this was just a small insult. But to Rin, it was a sign of disrespect that could not be ignored. As Rin walked through the busy streets, his thoughts went back to the early days of Arconis Group. When he had started the company, it was a small business on Earth, made to bring the best human design to the galaxy. Over the years, it grew into a giant corporation with ships and factories on many planets. Elysium Thread was supposed to be the crown jewel, a place that showed the highest human skill and style. But now, on Velaris Prime, humans were still newcomers. Many aliens did not take them seriously. They thought humans were weak or simple. Karn and Mela were just two small examples of a bigger problem. Rin reached a quiet plaza and sat down on a bench. He looked up at the stars beginning to shine above. He remembered the words of his father, who once told him, "In space, respect is earned by power and wisdom, not by words." Rin smiled again, this time with determination. He pulled out a small device from his pocket and pressed a sequence of buttons. A soft hologram appeared before him, three glowing symbols arranged in a triangle. This was Protocol Veil, a secret plan he had kept hidden for years, a way to remind others that humans were not to be underestimated. The plan was simple but powerful. If anyone tried to block or insult the company, Arconis Group could cut off all their supply chains, cancel contracts, and quietly remove their access to luxury goods across the Outer Rim. This could ruin many businesses that depended on human technology and design. Rin's fingers danced over the device, sending orders to his ships and agents in orbit and on distant planets. The quiet boutique on Velaris Prime would soon become the center of a silent storm. As the stars above the city flickered, Rin stood up and began to walk back to his ship. Inside, he was not just a man in plain clothes. He was the founder and leader of a great human empire, one that was about to remind the galaxy why humans should never be ignored. Rin stepped onto the ramp of his sleek ship, the Starfire, docked quietly in the upper orbit of Velaris Prime. The ship looked small from the outside, but inside, it was a marvel of human engineering: smooth metal surfaces, soft glowing lights, and control panels filled with blinking buttons and holographic displays. As the door sealed shut behind him, a calm, steady voice greeted him. "Welcome back, Founder." Rin smiled slightly but said nothing as he moved through the ship's narrow corridor. The voice belonged to Vela, his artificial intelligence assistant. Her voice was soft but confident, programmed to serve and protect the interests of Arconis Group at all times. Rin entered the command room and sat down in the captain's chair. The large window before him showed the glittering stars, the planet below, and the distant glow of other ships. Vela's voice broke the silence. "Karn and Mela denied your entry at Elysium Thread. Protocol Veil is ready for activation." Rin nodded slowly. "Activate." Instantly, his control panel lit up with streams of data. Orders were sent out across communication networks. On Velaris Prime and beyond, agents of Arconis Group prepared to execute their hidden plan. While many saw Arconis as just a large human corporation, Rin knew the truth. Behind the scenes, Arconis controlled over a third of the luxury trade routes in the Outer Rim. Their influence reached far beyond selling clothes or jewelry. They provided advanced materials, rare spices, and unique art forms, products only found through human technology and creativity. Rin leaned back, thinking about how quickly power could change. Across the city, in a bright office overlooking the busy streets, a tall lizard-like alien named Rexel sat at a desk. He was the manager of Elysium Thread. His sharp eyes scanned the latest reports on his screen. Most of them were complaints and questions about cancelled orders. Rexel frowned and rubbed his scales nervously. "What is going on?" he muttered. The boutique's usual calm was broken. Customers were angry. Their appointments vanished from the system. Inventory lists disappeared. Suppliers stopped answering calls. He tried to reach corporate headquarters, but the line was dead. The boutique's two attendants, Karn and Mela, came into his office. "Sir, we don't understand what happened. The contracts are gone, and our orders are cancelled," Karn said, looking worried. Mela nodded. "Some big clients have already sent messages demanding explanations. We look bad." Rexel closed his eyes. This was worse than any business crisis he had faced. Suddenly, a soft alert beeped on his desk. A hologram of a human woman appeared. Her name was Lee, an assistant to Rin and one of Arconis Group's top strategists. "Rexel," Lee said, her voice calm but firm, "we are taking control of all Elysium Thread operations immediately. Effective now, you and your staff are suspended pending investigation." Rexel blinked, shocked. "You cannot do this. This is my store." Lee's image faded. The hollow system shut off. Back on the Starfire, Rin sat quietly as data poured in from agents on the ground. Across Velaris Prime, other stores and trading posts received sudden notices from Arconis. Contracts were voided. Shipments stopped moving. Suppliers were blacklisted. Rin knew that many of these businesses depended on human technology and goods more than they wanted to admit. Without Arconis products, their customers would soon look elsewhere. This was the real power of humans' control over resources that no one else could easily replace. In the heart of the boutique, Karn and Mela stood by the entrance, watching as the usual stream of wealthy visitors slowed to a stop. "No one is coming anymore," Karn said, shaking his head. Mela frowned. "What did we do to deserve this? We just followed the rules." Karn looked at her and said, "Maybe we judged wrong. The man we refused, he is not just a simple visitor." On the lower decks of the Starfire, Rin met with Lee and another assistant, a quiet man named Bo. "We will rebuild Elysium Thread," Rin said. "But this time, the boutique will represent the best of humanity, our strength, our skill, and our respect." Lee smiled. "And we will make sure no one forgets it." Bo nodded silently. Rin stood and looked out the window again. "The galaxy thinks humans are weak because we look different. But we survive because we adapt, we learn, and we never give up." His voice was calm, but full of promise. The next morning on Velaris Prime, a new message appeared on every digital screen near the boutique: "Elysium Thread is temporarily closed for restructuring. We apologize for the inconvenience and will return stronger than ever." People whispered and wondered what was happening. Rumors spread that the owner had returned to take control. No one knew the full story yet. But one thing was certain: Elysium Thread was no longer just a boutique. It was the heart of a quiet revolution, led by a human who refused to be ignored. Rin, now back on his ship, prepared for what was next. The galaxy would soon learn that humans were not just newcomers. They were a force to be reckoned with, quiet, patient, and unstoppable. And the story of the man denied entry at his own boutique was only just beginning. News spread quickly across Velaris Prime. The luxury boutique, Elysium Thread, had suddenly gone silent. Its shining windows were dark, its usual bright lights dimmed. Across the city, those who once rushed to buy its fine clothing and rare jewels stopped in confusion. Many whispered stories about the sudden closure, while others grew angry, demanding answers they could not find. At the heart of this chaos stood Karn and Mela, the two attendants who had denied entry to the man in plain clothes, the true owner of the boutique, Rin. Now, their faces showed worry instead of pride. Karn paced near the door, his long fingers twitching nervously. "I don't understand. Why would the owner shut down the store? And why would the contracts disappear?" Mela leaned against the polished counter, her green scales shimmering under the low light. "It must be a punishment. For me, or maybe for all of us. But we never meant to be disrespectful." Karn shook his head. "Disrespect is easy when you don't know the cost." Far away, in the bustling spaceports of neighboring planets, something unexpected was happening. Elysium Thread's usual suppliers, some of the most advanced factories run by human technology, suddenly stopped shipping materials. Rare fabrics, special dyes, and exotic jewels vanished from trade lists without explanation. Traders who depended on these shipments found themselves with empty shelves and angry customers. Contracts that promised exclusive deals were quietly cancelled. One trader, a tall Telon noble named Varkal, stared at the glowing notification on his screen. "Cancelled? Without warning? This is impossible. Arconis Group controls too much." His assistant, a small alien with bright eyes named Jin, frowned. "What can we do? Our best customers expect these goods." Varkal slammed his fist on the table. "We wait. But I do not like this." Back on Velaris Prime, the boutique manager, Rexel, sat in his office, growing more anxious by the hour. His communications to corporate headquarters went unanswered. Orders that had once been guaranteed were now rejected or ignored. His phone rang suddenly. It was Lee, Rin's assistant. Her voice was firm but polite. "Rexel, your suspension remains in effect. We are reviewing the situation closely. For now, no one is allowed to enter or work in Elysium Thread except approved staff. Rexel sighed and rubbed his scales. This is a disaster. How can a single person control so much power? Lee's voice was calm but unyielding. You will receive further instructions soon. The line went silent. Meanwhile, Rin watched all this unfold from the Starfire, orbiting silently above the planet. Data streams showed reports of disrupted trade and confused customers. A sense of calm satisfaction filled him. He spoke softly to Vila, his AI assistant. How many clients have cancelled their contracts? Vila responded quickly. Nearly 70% in the sector, founder. Similar patterns detected in neighboring systems. Rin nodded. Good. It's working. On the streets near the boutique, rumors began to spread. Some whispered that the owner was not just a rich man, but a powerful figure with influence far beyond the city. Others said he was punishing those who had been rude to him. Karn and Mela heard these stories and grew even more nervous. Customers tried to enter the boutique but found the doors locked. Complaints flooded the nearby shops. Even some of the most loyal clients wondered if Elysium Thread would ever reopen. One evening, Karn said quietly to Mela, I think we made a mistake. Mela nodded slowly. Yes. The man we turned away, he was not just anyone. As days passed, the effects of Protocol Veil rippled through the outer rim. Other luxury boutiques linked to Arconis Group reported problems. Shipments were delayed or cancelled. Suppliers were left without buyers. The balance of trade was shifting. Traders and merchants whispered of a human storm, a quiet, unseen force that could freeze entire markets with a single decision. In one busy market on Velaris Prime, a group of alien merchants gathered in a circle, talking in low voices. They say the human who owns Elysium Thread is a giant among us, one said. Not a giant, another replied. A quiet storm. He does not shout or fight. He waits and then moves, and we all feel the ripple. Back inside the Starfire, Rin prepared for the next step. He called in his two trusted human assistants, Lee and Bo, to discuss the plan. Lee looked serious. The damage is done, but we must now rebuild. Elysium Thread cannot remain closed forever. Bo nodded. We will need new staff, better training, and stronger connections with customers. Rin agreed. This is not just about business. It is about respect. The galaxy must see that humans are strong, patient, and intelligent. Lee smiled slightly. We will show them. Meanwhile, on Velaris Prime, Karn and Mela waited uncertainly for news. They had lost their jobs, their reputations damaged. Other stores refused to hire them because of the blacklist issued by Arconis Group. Karn looked at Mela and said quietly, I never thought it would go this far. Mela sighed. Neither did I. But maybe this is a lesson we needed. At night, under the bright stars of Velaris Prime, Rin stood by the window of the Starfire's command room. The city below was quiet, but the ripples of his actions had reached far and wide. He thought of the man he had been when he first came to the boutique, dressed simply and ignored. Now, he was not just a man, but a symbol. A reminder that humans, though often underestimated, were forces of change. Rin smiled softly. The galaxy will remember, he whispered. 3 days had passed since the quiet storm of Protocol Veil swept over Velaris Prime. The city buzzed with rumors, but none knew exactly what was happening inside the walls of the now closed Elysium Thread boutique. The glass doors remained locked, and the usual shimmer of luxury was replaced by an unusual calm. Customers still tried to enter but were politely turned away by new security bots, silent and firm. Inside the city's center, Rin prepared for his next move. This time, he wore different clothes. Gone was the plain gray shirt and simple trousers. Instead, Rin dressed in a fitted charcoal robe, smooth and elegant, but still simple enough to avoid drawing too much attention. His clothes carried an unspoken message, not flashy, but clearly of high quality. As Rin walked toward the boutique, the people near the entrance noticed him. They whispered, but no one stopped him. The guards and attendants stood ready, but Rin walked past them without hesitation. At the door, the tall lizard-like manager, Rexel, saw Rin and froze. His eyes widened as recognition struck. "Sir, is that really you?" Rexel asked, his voice trembling. Rin smiled softly. "Yes. I have returned." Rexel swallowed hard and bowed his head slightly. "Please, forgive us, sir. We did not know it was you." Rin nodded but said nothing. Instead, he stepped inside the boutique. The atmosphere inside was different now. The usual rich scent of rare flowers and fresh silk had faded, replaced by a quiet tension. Karn and Mela were there too, standing near the front counter. Their eyes widened as Rin entered. For a moment, none of them spoke. Rin walked slowly down the main aisle, observing everything carefully. Finally, he stopped and turned to face the attendants. "I am here to observe," he said simply. "To see how you serve our customers." Karn's face grew pale. "Sir, we have done our best." Rin's eyes looked calm but serious. "Sometimes, best is not enough." He reached out and picked up a small piece of alien silk from the display. "This fabric is called Zhilan," he said, speaking clearly. "It comes from the jungles of Tilan. Can either of you tell me its special qualities?" Mela stepped forward nervously. "It is soft and shiny." Rin shook his head slightly. "It is much more than that. Zhilan changes color depending on the light and can reflect heat, making it perfect for desert climates." Karn swallowed hard. I didn't know." Rin smiled gently but did not say more. Next, Rin moved to a nearby customer waiting area. A group of alien visitors from the planet Tilan had just arrived, eager to see the new collection. Rin turned to Mela. "Show these customers the latest collection. Use what you know." Mela nodded and approached the visitors. She carefully selected fabrics and garments to match the tastes and needs of the Tilan guests. However, as she spoke, it became clear she lacked deep knowledge about the materials and their uses. Rin watched quietly, noting every detail. When the guests left, pleased but not impressed, Rin addressed the staff again. "You sell more than clothes. You sell status, culture, and trust. To do this, you must know your products and the people you serve." Karn and Mela looked down. The lesson was clear. After the customers left, Rin asked the staff to gather in a small meeting room. "I am not here to punish," he began, "but to teach. To rebuild what was lost." He spoke about respect for the customers, the products, and the company. He told them how humans had survived and grown, not by force alone, but by learning and adapting. They had faced great challenges in space and had become stronger because of it. The staff listened quietly, realizing this was more than a business talk. It was a call for change. Later that evening, Rin called in his human assistants, Li and Boli looked over the reports from the day. "The staff needs more training. Many mistakes came from a lack of knowledge." Bo nodded. "We should start workshops. Teach the history, the materials, and the value behind every product." Rin agreed. "And we must build a team who understands respect not just for the boutique, but for the customers and the brand." Li smiled. "I have some candidates in mind." In the following days, Rin stayed at the boutique often. He watched how the staff treated visitors, corrected mistakes quietly, and shared stories about the origins of their products. The change was slow, but noticeable. Customers returned, cautious at first, but impressed by the new attention to detail and care. The boutique's lights shone brighter, the displays looked fresher, and a new energy filled the air. One afternoon, a wealthy Tilan noble came back to the boutique. This time, he was greeted by a staff member who knew exactly how to explain the properties of the Zhilan fabric and recommend matching items. The noble smiled, clearly satisfied. Ren watched from a distance and allowed himself a small smile. As the boutique began to rise from its quiet period, Ren knew the battle was not over. There would always be those who judged humans by their clothes or their looks. But he had shown the galaxy that humans could act with patience, wisdom, and strength. That was the true power of humanity. And Ren was ready for what came next. The days passed, and Velaris Prime slowly returned to its usual rhythm. Yet, something had changed in the air around the luxury boutique, Elysium Thread. The quiet tension that had held the city captive was lifting, replaced by a cautious hope. Inside the boutique, Ren walked through the aisles, his eyes sharp and calm. The displays were bright, the fabrics carefully arranged. The scent of rare flowers filled the air again, and the soft music played quietly in the background. The staff had begun their training. Every day, they learned more about the materials, the history behind the designs, and the importance of respect in service. Karn and Mela, once proud but careless, now approached their work with seriousness and humility. Ren stopped near the entrance and looked out at the crowd gathering outside. The wealthy and curious visitors had started to return. Among them was a young alien woman named Sina, a trader known for her love of fine fashion and her sharp eye for quality. She was cautious but interested. Ren watched as Mela greeted Sina warmly, answering her questions with new knowledge and genuine care. After the visitors left, Ren called his staff together. "You have done well," he said quietly. "But there is still more to do. Respect is earned every day. It is not given because of a title or a name." Karn nodded. "We understand, sir. We will work harder." Mela smiled softly. "Thank you for teaching us." Ren's calm voice continued. "This boutique is more than a store. It is a symbol of human skill, patience, and honor. We will show the galaxy that humans are not to be ignored." Meanwhile, beyond Velaris Prime, Ren's influence began to grow in other ways. His secret network of agents and partners worked to rebuild the company's reputation across the Outer Rim. Li and Bo managed the communications, sending messages of renewal and strength to trading partners and suppliers. At the same time, Ren's orders began to restore shipments of rare materials and goods. Slowly but surely, the flow of trade returned. One evening, as Ren stood in the boutique's main hall, the doors opened quietly. A group of visitors entered. At their head was Varkal, the tall Tilan noble who had first experienced the disruption caused by Protocol Veil. He looked around the boutique, noticing the changes immediately. "This is different," he said to his companions. "There is respect here now." Ren stepped forward to greet them. "Welcome to Elysium Thread," Ren said, his voice calm but confident. "We are glad to serve you again." Varkal nodded. "I have heard much about your return. I am pleased to see it." Ren showed the visitors the latest collection, explaining the fabrics and their origins with care and knowledge. The Tilan noble listened closely, clearly impressed. "This is more than a store," Varkal said. "It is a place of culture and respect." Ren smiled. "That is our goal." Back in the staff room, Karn and Mela worked late, practicing their knowledge and perfecting their service. Mela looked at Karn and said, "I never thought learning could feel so important." Karn nodded. "I feel proud to be part of this now." As the days turned into weeks, the boutique's reputation grew stronger. More customers came, not only for the products but for the experience, the care, the respect, and the human touch. Ren knew this was just the beginning. One evening, as he stood alone by the window, looking out at the stars above Velaris Prime, he thought about the future. The galaxy was large and full of challenges. But humans had already proven they could survive and thrive in the harshest places. Ren's voice was soft, but full of promise. We will rise. Not just as a company, but as a people. The renewed glow of Elysium thread lit up the streets of Velaris Prime, drawing in crowds once more. Rin's plan to rebuild respect and trust was working, but beneath the surface, shadows stirred. Far from the boutique, in a dimly lit room aboard a rival company's ship, a group of executives gathered. Their faces were sharp and serious, reflecting concern over the rising power of Arconis Group and its human leader. At the head of the table sat the Rook, a tall alien with gray scales and cold eyes. He was the leader of the Kalion Consortium, a powerful trading company that had long dominated the Outer Rim markets. "We cannot allow this human to grow stronger," the Rook said, his voice low but firm. "Elysium Thread's return threatens everything we have built. His control over resources and influence over trade routes is unacceptable." One of his advisors nodded. "Our spies report that his new staff are better trained and that clients are returning. If this continues, we will lose our edge." The Rook's eyes narrowed. "Then we must act. Quietly. We will strike where it hurts the supply lines and the boutique's reputation." Back on Velaris Prime, Rin was unaware of the growing threat. His focus remained on strengthening the boutique and his team. One afternoon, as he reviewed new designs with Lee and Bo, a security alert flashed on the Starfire's system. "Unidentified ships approaching Velaris Prime," Vela announced calmly. Rin frowned. "How many?" "3 small vessels, moving fast and using stealth technology." Lee looked up. "Could be trouble." Rin nodded. "Prepare the boutique for possible disruption. We cannot let our progress be undone." At the boutique, preparations began immediately. Karn and Mela were briefed on security measures. The new human staff arrived, ready to assist and protect the store and its customers. Rexel, the former manager, had been offered a chance to return as an advisor, but he chose to watch from afar, unsure of where his loyalty now lay. That evening, the 3 unknown ships landed quietly near the outskirts of the city. From them, a small team of agents emerged, moving swiftly toward the boutique. Their leader was a sharp-eyed alien named Sarin, sent by the Kalion Consortium to cause disruption. Sarin and his team entered the boutique after hours, planting devices to interfere with communications and security systems. Their plan was to cause confusion during the next busy day, making customers doubt the reliability of Elysium Thread. The next morning, chaos nearly broke loose. The boutique's communication systems failed briefly, confusing staff and customers alike. Mela struggled to answer questions without the usual data at her fingertips. Karn tried to calm an upset visitor whose order seemed lost in the system. Rin arrived just in time to see the first signs of trouble. "Stay calm," he said firmly. "We will fix this." He quickly accessed backup systems and began tracing the interference. Meanwhile, outside the boutique, Sarin's team watched, waiting for the perfect moment to create a bigger disturbance. But Rin's team was faster. Bo and Lee coordinated repairs and sent messages reassuring customers and suppliers. Vela's AI system located the source of the sabotage and alerted security forces. Within hours, Sarin and his team were captured, their devices confiscated. Later that day, Rin called a meeting with his staff. "We faced a test today," he said quietly. "Not just from competitors, but from those who fear change." Karn looked at Rin with new respect. "You were ready." Rin smiled gently. "Preparation is key. Respect is earned not only through kindness but through strength." Mela nodded. "We will be stronger." Across the galaxy, news of the failed sabotage spread. Some merchants whispered that the human leader was not only wise but also powerful enough to protect what he had built. The Rook and the Kalion Consortium, though angry, knew this was only the beginning. That night, Rin stood once more by the window of the Starfire. The stars twinkled silently above Velaris Prime, but the galaxy was watching. The journey was far from over. but humans had faced darkness before and they had always risen. Rin's voice was steady and sure. We will face what comes. Together. The sun rose over Velaris Prime, casting a golden light on the renewed Elysium Thread Boutique. The city was alive with excitement. Word had spread that the store was not only open but stronger than ever. Inside, Rin walked quietly among the displays. The fabrics shimmered in the morning light, and the air was filled with the soft murmur of satisfied customers. The boutique was no longer just a place to buy clothes, it had become a symbol of respect, patience, and human determination. Rin paused near the entrance and watched Karn and Mela greet a family of visitors from a distant star system. Their smiles were genuine, their knowledge clear. The lessons Rin had taught were now part of their hearts. A message arrived from the corporate headquarters of Arconis Group, confirming the success of Protocol Veil and the recovery of the boutique's reputation. The company was impressed by Rin's leadership and his quiet strength. Lee handed Rin the message with a smile. They want you to visit the next branch on Relos Prime. Your work here has set a new standard. Rin nodded thoughtfully. This is only the beginning. Later that day, a celebration was held at the boutique. Customers, staff, and partners gathered to honor the reopening and the future. Rin gave a speech. Elysium Thread is more than a store, he said. It is a place where respect is given and earned. Where every customer is valued, and every staff member is part of a team. This is the way humans grow, through patience, understanding, and courage. The crowd cheered, their voices filled with hope and pride. Meanwhile, in a quiet corner of the galaxy, Thuric watched the news with a frown. His plan to stop Rin had failed, and now the human's influence was growing. He clenched his fists. This is far from over. But we will not give up. Back on Velaris Prime, Rin continued his work, building stronger relationships and training new staff. He visited the workshop where designers created new collections inspired by the diverse cultures of the galaxy. One day, as he walked through the boutique, Karn approached him. Sir, thank you, Karn said sincerely. You taught me more than I expected. I understand now what respect truly means. Mela nodded beside him. I am proud to be part of this team. Rin smiled warmly. You both have done well. This is the future we build together. The galaxy was vast and full of challenges, but Rin knew that humans were ready. They would face every obstacle with patience and strength. One evening, as Rin looked up at the stars from the starfire, he felt a quiet peace. The journey had been long and difficult, but it was not over. Yet, he was confident. Because humans were more than just survivors, they were builders of a better future. And so, Elysium Thread shone brighter than ever, a beacon of hope and respect in a galaxy learning to understand the true power of humanity.